Across Canada, the face of political leadership is changing. More women are stepping forward, taking their place at council tables, in provincial legislatures, and yes, even the House of Commons. They bring new perspectives, fresh priorities, and lived experiences that are reshaping the way our governments serve their communities. Bit by bit, our institutions are beginning to reflect the diverse population they represent. But the journey towards gender parity in politics is far from over. Women still hold fewer than half of the council seats nationwide here in Canada, and the number of female mayors continues to lag behind their male counterparts. True parity, often described as a 40-60 split, remains an aspiration, one that requires persistent effort to dismantle barriers and create inclusive spaces for leadership across Canada. So, what does it really mean to be a woman in municipal politics today? What pressures, expectations, and rewards come with serving your community in public office? And what is the lessons that we can learn from those who are already serving in those roles as mayors and councillors? As we head into the final weeks before nomination day here in the province of Alberta for the municipal elections, this conversation today couldn't come at a more important time. On today's episode of Municipal Affairs, we are turning to the voices in Alberta of women who know the realities firsthand. Joining us for this conversation is Airdrie City Councillor Heather Spearman, Lethbridge City Councillor Jen Schmidt-Rempel, Sexsmith Town Mayor Kate Potter, and Bonnyville Town Councillor Kayla Blanchette. Together, they will share how this work as municipal councillors and mayor has shaped them both personally and professionally, the challenges, the triumphs, what they've encountered along the way, and what it truly means to lead in today's political climate. Their stories will remind us of why representation matters and why the voices of women at the municipal council table are more important now than ever before. Sitting down with me and talking about this important conversation about getting more women involved in municipal politics. I want to start with a very simple question for each and every single one of you. And I want to start with Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. And it's a open-ended question. I hope everyone can answer as well. But what led to you getting involved into municipal politics?
So back, I first ran in 2021. And it was follow-up to a meeting that I'd had with an official with the city of Lethbridge, who I was not in favor of something the city of Lethbridge was doing. And I was very vocal about it. And we had a media company in Lethbridge. We owned Lethbridge Living Magazine. And I was out and about. I was also serving on Economic Development Lethbridge, but I was very vocal in opposition to what the city was doing. One of the senior executive leaders at the city of Lethbridge at that time took me out for coffee, and she very bluntly told me that I needed to learn to keep my mouth shut and stop talking about things that the city was doing and how I opposed it. And it was then and there that I thought, no, I don't need to learn to keep my mouth shut. I need to speak up louder, and people need to be heard because there are people who oppose what's going on. So that's why I stepped up to run. And it was never a question whether I was a woman or not. I was going to run because people needed to be heard.
We're going to come back to that in a few minutes because I'm assuming that's the entire what we're going to be hearing in the next few minutes. But Mayor Potter, for yourself, what made you ultimately decide to run for council and for mayor?
So I think for me, I grew up in a house where politics was part of everyday life. We discussed it. I've had relatives, sort of extended relatives involved in different levels of government over many years. And so it's always been a part of my life in that way. Big advocate for voting, making sure that people are engaged, and heavily involved in the community. I was a volunteer firefighter. I was the soccer coach. I taught voice lessons. Like, you know, you run in all these different circles, and knowing all of that and having that growing up experience, I think I just always assumed that at one point I would probably do it. I love being involved. I like helping find great solutions. I like taking on challenges. And so for me, it wasn't a matter of if, but when. And I think being a female, I'm the first in my family history as a female to be involved in politics. But I never really thought twice about that. Having subsequently campaigned, I probably think more about it now than I ever did, just because of some of the response that I got while campaigning and being in office. I realized that I was in a unique situation that way, but I had also, having been a volunteer firefighter previously, it was a very male-dominated world, and I'm always up for the challenge. I'm always like, okay, I'll just, if it's something I want to do, I'm just going to do it. So I don't know that there was much that could have kept me from being involved or wanting to run. And so I just did.
That's good, because I think that's a lot of people. It's the double-edged sword, right? There's some people who get the negative pushback, and then some people just say, screw it, we're going to do it. Councillor Blanchette, for yourself in Bonnyville, when you decided to put your name forward, what was that consideration based on?
So I ran first in 2021. So this is my first term on council. I am the youngest one at my table and the only female councillor at my table aside from the mayor. I ran for a couple of reasons. Of course, I have a young family, so I, of course, wanted to give back to a community that I wanted to be proud of and raise my family in. But I definitely ran one because in 2021, and I've said this on the show before, that I lived in a very divided community in 2021 in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that I was more encouraged to run before I wrapped my head around it. I think that people in my circle and other community members saw leadership in me before I maybe saw it in myself. So that was one of the reasons that I chose to run. I really felt like I could bring my community together rather than divide them further apart. That's definitely a characteristic that I'm proud of. And I was involved in other leadership roles or community oriented roles in school council and in kids activities and whatnot. But I definitely saw an opportunity here for me to give back in this way as well. But in 2021, we had a high turnover in our council. We had several councillors that went into retirement, chose not to seek re-election. Our mayor, she was a previous councillor, so that seat would be available then. So I thought, okay, if this is when I'm going to do it, I think this is a great opportunity. But I didn't put in my nomination papers until close to the last second when I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do this. But one of my driving forces was looking at the list of nominees, and there was not a single female going to be on that ballot. And I couldn't sleep at night knowing that I had this opportunity, I guess. And so that was one of the reasons that I put my name forward. I wanted to be that female voice, and I think that we are underrepresented in politics. So that's kind of what brought me to that decision.
And Councillor Spearman, for yourself in the city of Airdrie, what was your decision based on?
Oh, thank you for asking. Like Mayor Potter, I grew up in a family that was very political, was no stranger to politics from a very young age. And so it was the height of the pandemic. I was extremely frustrated with policies going on. And I called up my father and I said, Dad, I think I'm going to run to be an MLA. And he was like, Heather, you would hate that. You should run for council. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I will. And I found my people in my city that had common beliefs. And I leveraged a women's group that I had been running for some years in my community. And I reached out to them. I said, what do you care about? And grew it from there.
Now, I was not going to rip off the Band-Aid right away, but I think we need to. And I'm going to ask the very political question on the political show about political women in office. We are heading into the last month of the municipal election nomination period here in the province. And there are probably women across this province who are going to be listening to this, who are watching this, who are thinking, should I put my name forward? What is the negativity that I'm going to have if I get elected as a female on municipal council, as a mayor, as a councillor? In your time in office, let's just talk for the last term. In your time in office, Mayor Potter, have you ever had negative comments, attitude towards your role as mayor being a female leader in a municipal setting?
100%. And I would um, venture to say that every woman who sits in that role as a mayor or councillor has had it. Like, there's nobody who hasn't experienced it in some form. And for sure, there are different degrees of severity or negativity, and not all of those things are equal, but 100% it's something that you face. And for myself, I've been very fortunate that that even though I'm in an area that people would generally consider more, for sure, is more conservative, and being in northern Alberta, and some would say that some would even use the term quite limited or backward, or just like a very limited perspective. I have been extremely fortunate that that I haven't faced some of the severe negativity that others have, with, for example, threats to my family, physical threats of violence, that sort of thing. There are sort of ambiguous things and I think it's just the reality of being, number one, in politics. It's a really volatile time where people feel they have the right to to make their voice known, even if it's derogatory or rude or dangerous in some cases. I try really hard not to let that drive what I do or influence what I do, because when I let the negativity really take over, my life is run by that and ruined by that. And so and my family gets affected, and my friends get affected, and our council is affected, and we become a lot less effective as a community when that happens. And so it has been a challenge learning how to handle that day by day, and figure out the best way to navigate it, because it's just part of, unfortunately, it's a part of life in politics for women, for sure. And that's irregardless of decisions that council is making, right? Like, council making decisions will already bring negativity. To add that on top just adds a whole nother layer of impact to life.
Councillor Blanchette, for yourself, because you mentioned in your opening statement that you were the only female councillor on your council. I hate to ask the stupid questions, but I kind of have to. Have you ever, in your time in office in the 4 years since you were first elected, had people not go to you because you are a female, and they'd rather go to a male counselor and say, we're going to talk about the issues with the male counselors because you're too emotional, you're too you should be at home helping your kids, and not go to you because you have that sort of, not have, but you are a female counselor, so they won't go to you? Have you had that happen, or have you had experiences where you being a female counselor has negatively affected the ability to represent your community?
Oh, I definitely don't think that I've experienced me being a female being a barrier to representing folks in my community. I definitely feel like if anything, I come with a bit more of a holistic approach and I can see things through a different lens, perhaps. I mean, I would say that having a young family and being a female, I've probably navigated more intense conversations at the dinner table or negotiations with my kids than I have in council chambers, to be completely honest with you. But I've certainly experienced probably a look of surprise or shock where sometimes I'll open my mouth and I'll say something about something and they'll be like, how'd you know that? Like, where did you? And I know that it's simply because like it's not something that you would anticipate a female would know about. And an example might be I was married to a volunteer firefighter. Thank you, Kate, for your service to your community, because I know that that is a very intense job and sometimes thankless. But anyhow, I will say something about fire service, for example. Well, you wouldn't, given that that is a male dominated industry as well, having that knowledge just in my life experience sometimes shocks people. So, and of course, I've experienced the like being talked over or something, or, you know, an assumption that I don't know about something because I'm a female. But I've learned early on to lean on data and facts. And, you know, if I don't know something, being prepared and being prepared to engage in conversation and listening and learning. I also had someone very close to me. I kind of vented my spleen one day about having felt that I was, you know, talked over, talked down to. And given that I am one female on my council, I was a little disappointed at one time that, you know, my male colleagues didn't kind of stick up for me. And that person in my circle, he was like, don't play victim. You don't need the boys to save you. And initially, my initial reaction to that was, well, like, what do you mean? What do you mean don't play victim? Like, I'm not playing a victim. He's like, yeah, you are. You're totally playing the victim here. Like, you don't get to lean on that and be and be a victim here. Like, pick up after yourself. You don't need the boys to save you. So it shifted my perspective a little bit. I've definitely learned to play the game better, I think, as a female. You just sometimes the reality is that you need to work harder, you need to be a little more strategic. And I think I've grown in that regard in the last 4 years.
Councillor Spearman, do you feel like you have to prove yourself at the table?
No.
And I know for those who were not watching this and listening, I saw some chuckles around the Zoom call, but I'm asking these questions because I think these are important questions that we need to ask. And I'm not trying to be light. It's just, I truly like, from what I hear is females feel like they have to prove themselves even harder. The old saying is Ginger Rogers had to do it backwards in a dress and in high heels compared to Fred Astaire. So did you ever feel in your last 4 years that you had to prove yourself, that you didn't need to be at the table, but you had a spot at the table because you were elected?
So, Chris, as much as I immediately laughed, I wasn't laughing because I thought the question was, you know, too
Okay, good.
I think it's an important question. So no, I will boldly say I have never felt like I have had to prove myself to be an equal to my colleagues, regardless of, you know, how they saw themselves gender-wise. What I will say, to your point, is whether it's politics or whether it's the corporate world, which I know most folks in municipal politics in Alberta are working another job outside of, you know, their council role. What I will say is there's sort of a trend. We're very far away from parity, whether it comes, you know, in terms of leadership roles, whether it comes in terms of, you know, what getting paid, things like that. But what I will say is there is a common thread that is regularly discussed, and I particularly hear it in women's leadership circles where we talk about women, and this is not meant to, you know, take a dash at men at all, but it's just kind of a funny concept that makes me chuckle and a lot of my friends too. And the idea being a extremely competent, wonderful, and intelligent and highly qualified woman is considered the same as a mediocre man in the same role. So you can be a man with half the resume, half the history, half the capabilities, and you can be a woman who's twice as good, and you may not necessarily, punch above your weight. But what I like about politics in particular is that at the end of the day, how good are you at campaigning and how good are you in your role? Because it's a level playing field when it comes to the pay. You're not getting paid any less than your male colleagues. And if you campaign, you can kick their butts. So to that end, the only person that I'm trying to prove anything against is myself.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, for yourself, the role of a councillor, the role of a mayor can transform people. It can transform them for the better or for the worse. Has the role transformed you into someone that you look back on and say, if I would have been this way back 4 years ago, I would have been better off as a councillor, as a female councillor today?
No, because it is a work in progress, and you should start at one point when you first enter politics. This is my first term. You should start at that point. You've got a lot of learning, and you need to know when to listen, right? So there's building that up as you go along. I don't regret how I started. I don't. What I am now, though, is I'm definitely looking at being more assertive, being more vocal, and standing up for myself more and expressing more of what I have to say in an effort to represent the people that elected me. Certainly, when you start, you don't know everything, right? And you shouldn't know everything. It's a job where there's a lot of learning, right? You've got budgets, you've got different policies. You have to master all that, and it does take you a good 4 years to get to understand that. So I think what it has done is it's educated me in. I had an idea as to what I was getting into and where I was going to head, but now I'm here, right? So what does the next term look like? What does the future look like? And it's growing on that. So I don't regret where I started, but I am very much I'm happy with where I am now because I know what I need to do moving forward.
So it brings into the question, and this is an open question for whoever wants to take it first. Many, and I say this, I shouldn't say many, but there are probably people out there right now saying, I don't know if I actually belong on council. I'm a woman, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I don't know if I truly belong on council. As for people who are on council, who belong there, was there a turning point in your time in office where you truly felt, I actually do belong here? Because there is a lot of, even for myself, when I started the show, I was moments like where I don't know if I'm doing this right, but you learn as you go along. What was the moment in each one of your careers in your time of office where you said, I actually do belong here? Who wants to take that first? Wow, that
Oh,
was
I was
okay.
gonna say,
Kayla,
well,
go
look at
ahead.
all of us.
Kayla, go for it.
Thank you. I think that it happened probably, I was probably a couple of years in. For those of you who don't know, I also am the president of the Family and Community Support Services Association of Alberta. And sometimes and I've gained a lot of knowledge through that. I also have I'm working through education and social work right now. So sometimes I'll have a moment where something like that comes across the council table, something social services related, and they all look to me, right? And they all, it's not often that the boys will just shut up, but there are those rare times where they look to me and they're like, this is your baby. Like we look to you on this. There's that, but I definitely and I still am guilty of that imposter syndrome, right? Where I go, oh my gosh, like fake it till you make it, right? So I think that definitely getting elected into that position at that association level where I stood up there and I talked about what I could do to be a leader. I think that was not only not only did I need to like make that speech and talk to folks about what I could do for them as an association, but I needed that for me too. It was almost like once I got elected and I said all those things and I'm like, you have those moments where you go like, do I belong here? Or you kind of have those moments of self-doubt and you work your way through it. I was done speaking up on that stage and and I won by an overwhelming majority that election. I was like, why the heck wouldn't they want me? So, I mean, that was probably a really pivotal moment in my career in politics for sure. And I'm so very grateful that my council got behind me 100% when I said that I wanted to do it. So that was definitely an I belong here moment. And it was also when I talked for 3 years about some of the projects in the town and seeing those make it into the capital budget last year, where folks were like, my colleagues were like, yeah, that is a priority, and I did a good job of selling it to them. So yeah, in those moments of self-doubt, I kind of look back and I see those moments too as wins, and I go, okay, I have made a difference these past few years.
I should just clarify. I addressed you as your first name. I apologize, but Councillor Blanchette, thank you so much for that. Councillor Spearman, for yourself.
Um, it was election night for me was the moment I knew that I belonged. Because I had been putting out really different policies and really different conversation points in my campaign after that election. And for the record, I joined in 2021. And I knew that they were not typical of what my community had previously talked about as potential conversation points in municipal government. Not that they weren't part of municipal government. So for me, I really didn't know how that was going to land. I had hoped that I'd have some support and get close to getting elected. But when I got elected, not only did I get elected, I was the one non-incumbent that got elected. And I came rolling in fourth place out of 6 candidates. So there were 19 people that ran for a council seat, and I came in fourth, and I went, oh, hell yeah. Okay, this is what we're here for. And I haven't stopped since, whether people like it or not. So, but that was the moment. And I'm not a particularly emotional person. But that night I cried relief and I went, okay, my message is clear, it's supported, and this is the direction I'm going for the next 4 years. And I have no regrets.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Similar to what Councillor Spearman said, certainly election night, when I placed third in that election here in Lethbridge. So that was a pivotal moment of, yes, I do belong, I do resonate with people, and that was huge. But other than that, like I said before, it's sort of been an evolving process as well, where I've found my people as I've moved through being on council. There's going to MGA or going to Alberta municipalities, and knowing that other people there understand the MGA and we can talk about it and having those conversations where it's, I found my people. This is where I belong. But then it's also things like a project. It was just a zoning matter to get zoning for a 210 space 24/7 daycare here in Lethbridge, and I've been working on that with our minister here for over a year. And the zoning finally came to council, and we had done all the work, and it went through. And it was that moment getting those things through where it's like, yes, what I'm doing resonates, and the work I'm seeing some of that, the end results of that work, and we are making a difference. So it's been little points along the way that have really made me feel like this is where I belong.
And the final on this topic, before I start asking some individual questions here, Mayor Potter, for yourself, was there a moment that you felt I truly belong here?
Yeah, I think I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to whether or not I belong or whether or not I have everything I need to bring to the table, that sort of thing. And so I was first elected in 2017, did very well. And then in 2018, I considered running provincially. And I had talked to someone who was quite high up in the party that I was considering running for. And it was a man, and he was well respected, he was well known, and in our region very influential. So I went in, he asked if he could meet with me. I went into this conversation with him, and here, I've got like, here's my resume, here's all the things I do, here's what I've done, this is my experience, this is my, and I'm talking, he just responded and said, okay, so like, he basically said, yeah, all of that checks out. You're well documented. You're totally fine. You totally belong. And here I had been so worried that was the actual concern that he had. And I'm like, oh, he's just like instantaneously. It's like, oh yeah, that all checks out. You're like, you obviously have experience. And I thought, why was I so worried about that moment? That I just really had to come and guns a-blazing, make sure that they know everything. And then our mayor passed away in office in 2018, and a by-election was called for mayor. And so I decided to run. I had the majority support of the rest of my council because I'd only been serving on council a year, so totally not prepared. And there were some council members who, again, only female on an all-male council. And some of my colleagues at that time had 14, 15, 20 years experience. And I thought, you know what, I think I can do this, and I think I can do a good job, but I want to make sure that I'm not too optimistic here too. And if any of them were running, I wanted to also defer to experience because I was brand new. But I had the support from the majority. There was another councillor who also decided to run, and I thought I could beat him. So we both decided to run. But it probably was another year before I was confident enough to say, like, I knew what my role was. And so I did my role. And as a mayor versus a councillor, at least in our situation, as the mayor, I'm the spokesperson for council. I'm their representative generally to the public. I run the meetings. I make sure that we're adhering to proper procedure, but also that everybody has opportunity to speak. I'm trying to build consensus. There's a lot of things in there. And while I knew what the job was, and I knew what I had to do, so I was willing to do it. But I think it was about a year in, and the councillor who'd been serving the longest on our council, we were having a discussion about something. And as the mayor, I generally don't voice my opinion until the end, because I know that the role can sometimes have an effect on other people unintentionally. So if I come out swinging on something, I can sway people. I can get people up in arms real fast if they don't like me for whatever reason. So I usually do that. And this senior councillor turned to me and said, I just want to know what the mayor thinks. And basically said, I respect where you're coming from. And I know that you have been at the table and toe to toe. You're aware of the issues. You're aware of the, and I just thought, like, this was the moment for me where it was like, okay, I've established myself here, that even the guy who's been here forever and he wasn't in my camp when I got elected. He was back and forth between us. And there were, and for some of the exact reasons that we talked about before, where, you have a young family at home. Can you really be committed? Can you do all of these things? There were questions that he brought to the table about whether or not I was the right candidate, which is fine. I have no problem asking me if I'm the right candidate, and I'll prove to you that I am the right candidate. But he said, I want to know because I know that you're there and I know you're committed. And I thought, this is it. Now I can really relax and focus in without having to worry about whether or not the people sitting, well, I mean, I still have some sitting around the table that have concerns sometimes, but if they know that I'm committed and they know that I can stand my ground and do what I need to do, then we can actually move forward as a council rather than it being an internal battle rather than an external challenge.
We often talk in the social media sphere, which we always believe because that's what we do in this world. We believe what is said on social media is truth, that women have a harder time getting into politics. They are the ones who face a lot of challenges. But it sounds like, from talking around this conversation, you all entered politics very easily, to the sense that you got elected on your first times out. You're on the council, you're serving well. But you are a very select group of people who are talking on this show right now. And we are talking about gender parity on councils. I'm hearing stories around this table right now about I'm the only female councillor. I was the only female councillor, and then I was the mayor when I got elected. What does true gender parity look like in your context? Councillor Spearman, what does true gender parity look like? Is it just 2 municipal councillors that are women? Because right now, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities says that gender parity is a 40-60 split. 40% male, female, 60% male. To me, that's not enough. That's just my own personal opinion, but that's what I read on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities' own website. For women serving in this role, what does true gender parity look like? Councillor?
I love this question, and we could have a whole podcast just about this question. So listen, here's where I'm at with this. And it's this. Gender parity is when we represent the communities that we are in. We are not in a 40-60 split, number one. Number two, gender parity is when we have equal amounts of women running. So as an example, for Airdrie right now, we had 19 people that ran in the 2021 municipal election for council. Of those, it was, I believe, 6 were women of the 19. Of the 6 women that ran, 3 got elected in Airdrie. So if you are a woman running, you probably actually have a great chance of running. Now, I'm going to throw this Easter egg out for anyone who's looking to the future as a woman running in politics. There are exceptional programs out there. One is called Ask Her YYC. There's another one for Edmonton. I believe it's called Parity YEG or YEG. But what it is, these are campaign schools for women or gender diverse people who want to learn how to run a campaign either for themselves or for someone they support. And one of the things that I learned when I took that school prior to my 2021 election was that women on average in Canada have to be asked 8 times before they'll run in an election. And from my personal standpoint, I'm a mom of 3. I have a career, I have a husband, and I have a couple disabilities as well. So for me, like, I really did have to weigh a lot of things before I could actually throw my name in. But when we're talking about gender parity, yes, gender parity is huge because we definitely want to have equal amounts of representation, not just in gender, but in race, like, because you can't say you're a woman who's representing equality in politics if that isn't an intersectional statement. It has to also include women of different backgrounds, not just me, who's born and raised in Alberta. So I say that, but I also want to add the reason why parity is so challenging is because typically women carry a bigger load outside of the political office, and we need to find ways to compensate for our absence. Because when I'm sitting on council and when I'm in political realms or when I'm in the community, someone else is managing my kids. And thank goodness for me, I have a partner who is incredible at doing that. But that's not always the case. So being able to manage those things is a huge barrier to that parity. So when the FCM says it's 40-60, I guess I could see why. It's probably because we don't have equal women running, let alone getting elected. But that's my soapbox about it. I think we need at least equal amounts of women running in every election.
Mayor Potter.
I would echo what Councillor Spearman has said. That's exactly what I feel is so critical, is getting people to the ballot. And in the end, the community is responsible to pick and select who they think will best represent them. And sometimes that's not the other woman on the ballot because she's a woman. It's somebody else on there for whatever different reason. And so to me, having people be able to get to the ballot, this is the hardest thing to overcome. And, you know, every election season, I meet with whoever is interested in running. I don't care if you're running against me or what. I want to see great people put their names forward. And I want to encourage them that that it doesn't always happen the first time. I want to encourage them that it's worthwhile going through it, even if you're not elected, because the experience you gain from it and the opportunity to discover if this is something, maybe it's not actually elected, maybe it's on the administrative side that you actually love. I find so many people want to be elected because they want to get their hands dirty and do stuff. And I'm like, you're on the wrong side. Like on the admin side, you actually get to do something. Our side, we're like, we make the decision about doing it, and then we hand off the doing to other people. So sometimes it's helping people realize where their passions are and how that can fit in really well. And oftentimes I find that women have not considered that politics, they think of politics as one thing over here, but it's actually this, and they don't see themselves here. Even if I'm there and I'm a woman at the table, they don't necessarily see themselves there. I have to help them see, or people, we have to help them see that their passions and the things that they're so excited about and can really make a difference in are all in this political realm too. And that's where, you know, the organizations that help people understand what it's like to campaign and to be ready for that are so helpful, because it gives you a much better sense of what it's like to go through it than just, you know, thinking that it's what you see on TV or during election season or what the US puts forward or in TV shows. Like, none of that is reality, really, like, other than you're going to get some signs probably. that's as close as it comes. So
can I ask I apologize to interrupt, but I need to ask this question, and I'm going to ask this to all four of you. Why does it matter if more women don't get involved or get involved in municipal politics? Because this is the question I've had to myself this entire conversation, and I've been scared to ask it to four women who are all sitting around the council table making the decisions. We often hear, and even Mayor Potter just said it just a few seconds ago, the best person needs to be there. Why does it matter in 2025 to have more women in politics when we have to look at who's the best person? Doesn't matter if it's male or female or but non-binary. But why is it important in 2025? And I'm going to sort of ask Councillor Rempel-Schmidt on this one, and then Councillor Blanchette, and if Mayor Potter or Councillor Schmidt want to jump in on this, that's great. But why is it important? Why is it important to encourage more women to run? And why is it more important for not just the best person to win, rather than the best female to win? Councillor Schmidt? And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to start a debate.
No.
I just, because I can see the YouTube comments right now. It's going to be, there's four women and they're bitching, pardon my French. They're upset about the fact
exactly.
they're complaining about the fact that more women aren't involved in politics. But we need the best people. We don't need a quota. We don't need this, that, or the other. We need the best people around the council table to make decisions. And we don't care if it's male or female. We want the best person. Why is it important to have female voices at the council table in 2025?
Well, I think more than anything, what it is to have the voices at the table that people see themselves in, right? So another woman might not see herself in me, but might see themselves in the other female elected official, Belinda Croson, that we have at the council table, right? So really, it's making sure that people see themselves on council, and it might not mean that they run, but it means that they're going to get out and vote. And that's just as important because then they are out there selecting the best people or doing the work to select the best people that they believe should be around that council table. Um, we need more women. We need we need just a broader base of diversity sitting around those council tables, bringing those messages in. And you need to be able to see yourself in those people who are running and those people who are sitting there and those people who are making those decisions. And that's where I look at it. It's not saying, complaining because I'm one of two women sitting on council and we need another two sitting there. It really is, who are the best people to be sitting there? Is it a woman? Do I see myself in that other woman? Are they doing the work? Are they doing good work? Are they out and involved in the community? Are they preparing for the meetings? Are they reading their budget packages? All of that sort of stuff. It comes in one package together, right? But you need to be able to see yourself in that person to even want to get out to vote. So I think that's part of it as well.
Councillor Blanchette, for yourself, do we need more women in politics in 2025?
Well, Chris, I think that to your point about you're going to hear the argument that it's all about the best person being at the table. And I agree, it is about the best people being at the table. I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's about empowering women who are strong and capable. And, it's about them recognizing that they are the best people in some cases to be at this table. It's about not only them recognizing it, but us as influential people in the community, and it doesn't have to be just us as women, it's men as well, educating and mentoring and empowering people to recognize that. I've never been a big fan of the whole quota idea. They help crack the door, but I think it is just about empowering people. And something that actually struck me earlier when Councillor Spearman was talking about being a mom and having someone else be in charge of the mom things when you're in this role. Sometimes someone else has to take that load on. I'll tell you, I have been to so many events. I've sat in committee meetings where I've had a toddler sitting beside me coloring, or I've been, that's what it's like to be relatable. I go to a community event and yeah, I am Councillor Blanchette, and I've said this before, I've never had the benefit of taking that hat off when I'm out in the community, just because I'm a mom and I'm it's inconvenient at that time. I've never had that benefit, but I'm also a mom and I never get to take that hat off either. So that's a part of being relatable, I think. But yeah, I think it's all about empowerment, and yeah, the best person should be at that table. And sometimes that best person, and you know what, probably more often than we believe, a woman is the best person to be there. So yeah, that kind of sums up my take on that.
Mayor Potter, Councillor
Sure.
Spearman, do you have anything to add about that?
The only thing I'll add really is I don't know who the best person is, to be honest. And this is why it's so critical to get people to the ballot is that I think I know who the best person is. I'll vote for the people I vote for. But this is the beauty of democracy, is that when it works well, the representation is right for the community. And so when you don't have the people on the ballot who represent the community well, that's when we're limited. That's when we say, well, we've got the same 6 people, and smaller communities face this. Well, there's nobody else who's going to run. It's the same 6 people who have served for the last 3 terms. We're just going to go with them. They get acclaimed again and again and again. And people then feel disenfranchised, and that loss of empowerment as a people that we share to say we can affect change and we can make things better and we can grow our community. And so for me, it's I don't know who the best person is, but I want to make sure that every name on that ballot, that every person who wants to be on that ballot has had the opportunity to get there. And so if I can encourage that, That to me makes the biggest difference. You know, like even as I think of coming up to a new election season, I've been meeting all the people that I've met with who are thinking about running have all been women so far. Those are the ones who answered when I put up on my official mayor page from Sexsmith. I always say in every election season, if you're interested in running for council, please reach out to me. I'm happy to walk you through what to expect, what my experience has been from previous elections, and to help you make a good decision, because there's a lot going into it. And every single person who has reached out to me so far has been a woman. And that is different than previous years. Every other year previously, to be honest, it's all been men. And so to me, I'm this is where I'm like always hopeful and optimistic that more and more people see themselves, like Councillor Schmidt-Rempel said, people are seeing themselves and that it's possible to do. So they're starting to take steps. And I think it's a forever process. I don't think we'll just get there one day and we're like, oh, we've reached parity. Here we are. It's like, it's always an ongoing process.
Okay. I'm cautious of time here. We have about 15 minutes left, and I have to ask the elephant in the room question as well. What role does online social media play in your role as councillors and mayors? Who wants to take that? And it's only going to be one person, so you're speaking for the entire female population right now when you're saying that. Councillor Blanchette, go for it.
Well, I don't want to say that I speak for the entire population, my goodness, but for myself, I learned probably early on in my term that the best thing for your own mental health is to probably stay out of the Facebook comment section, because you are never going to please everyone. And I don't think that that's unique to women by any means. I think it's unique to anyone in municipal politics. No matter who you are, you are the order of government that's closest to the people, and it's easy to reach you in this level of government. And I also live by it's hard to hate me up close. So it's easy to do it behind a keyboard and say your things. But if you see me in the grocery store, I highly doubt that you would say the exact same things. For myself in social media, I definitely stick to the positives. I use social media as an education tool to show not only what I'm doing as a councillor in the community, what we're doing as a council, things that I'm really proud of. I definitely put out there. And I definitely use it as a tool. I think a lot of people use it for negative purposes, not necessarily politicians, but I think in general, it's not necessarily seen as a tool. But I think it has a place for sure. It's a great communication tool. It's great for engagement if used properly. But I think that I've definitely learned this term that you use it as a tool, not necessarily you want to keep your mental health in check as well, I think. So you need to navigate it properly.
This question's for the two big cities councillors that are in this, and then I have a question for the smaller community mayor and councillor in 2 seconds after that. What trait makes a good big city councillor in 2025? Councillor Spearman first.
Well, I want to say we're bigger cities than our colleagues here on the call, but we're certainly not the Edmonton or the Calgary and the interesting conversations I know that our colleagues there have. But if you're asking me what trait is important in 2025 in the size of a city, I would say authenticity. Whether you're campaigning or whether you're on council, there's that funny saying, you don't have to remember all your lies if you're just honest about who you are and what you do. So I think authenticity, letting people see themselves in you, to Councillor Schmidt-Rempel's point from earlier, people want to be seen in you and in the way you make decisions on policy. So being authentic, standing by your mistakes, owning your mistakes, and showing people you're human. I think the sooner people see humanity and authenticity in politicians, the sooner this war on politicians will go away, or at least fight them.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, and this is definitely adding to what Councillor Spearman said, because she does hit the nail on the head on that. I also think that, and this would go for any community, any place, it's you don't need to be an expert in everything, but you do need to know when to stop talking and when to just listen and just hear what the residents have to say. You're never going to have all the answers, but they need to feel heard.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. People need to see themselves in you, and they need to feel heard. Half of your issues can be dealt with just by letting people know that you have heard them.
Larger cities, you often don't get to know every single one of the voters, but in smaller communities, you know literally everyone. When there's someone
Yeah.
new in your community, you know that person. You're going, whoa, why is there a new person in our community? So that means it's a completely different dynamic, because you make a decision and you're making a decision for John and Jacob down the street, and you will know every decision that you make. What is a good trait that makes a good small urban community mayor and councillor? Councillor Blanchette?
I think resilience is a big one for sure. Criticism is part of the role, and you're never going to please everyone. So,
Shocker!
I
Shocker!
know,
Shocker!
I know. I definitely I talk about communities building resilience in my role with FCSS. It lives true here as well. You definitely need resilience. I think that a good trait, though, for any counselor, but specifically women, is you were put in this position for a reason, because you were seen as being a worthy representative of your community. So have the confidence and don't be afraid to speak, even when your voice shakes. That one is a big one. And I think overall, just empathy. It's you need to think of your community as a whole, and you need to think of the people that you're affecting when you're making these decisions. And sometimes the decisions don't come down to, what is the most cost-effective way to do this. So I think that just empathy is definitely a big one as well.
Mayor Potter, and then my last question for everyone.
So I appreciate my colleagues from across the province, because these are all the things that I wrote down already in preparation for this as I was looking through your questions, Chris. And even though we're from different sized communities, at the end of the day, it's still the same. We're still aiming for the same goals. We still want the same things. And so for me, it comes down to love for community and loving your neighbor. And by neighbor, I mean your entire community. Because in my case, I walk by them, and then they are on my kids' soccer team. And then we go to church together, go to, like everything. And you're everywhere together. And you can overlook a lot of things if I know that the person across the table is doing what they're doing out of love for their community. We may not have the same ideas, the same goals, the same plans, the same response to something. But if I know they love their community and they're loving the people around them, we can often find a solution. And that goes hand in hand with that listening to people, walking with integrity, being able to be resilient when people are stupid, which they will be. And I'll be stupid sometimes too, right? Like, it's not only them, it's also me. Sometimes I try hard to make it not me, but all of those things go hand in hand. And so if I know that they're coming with a love for community, and that's what drives what I do when I think of my community. And I appreciated Councillor Blanchette, you said, you think about the impact that decisions make on others around the table, on the others who are living in your community. and you can say, I can get behind this decision because I love my community. I think it's what's best. And I will walk through and happily explain or listen to anyone who disagrees with me or who wants to try and change my mind. Like, I know they're coming at it for the most part out of love for their community too. And so for me, all of those things kind of just wrap up there and hopefully set us up well for a great council and a great community.
So I have one final question for everyone, and it's going to start in the reverse order that we started. So starting with Councillor Spearman. The next generation of leaders are thinking about putting their names forward today. On September 20th, nomination closes, and that means the field of candidates will be set, and voters will have their choice to make on October 20th. There may be women out there who are thinking that they don't have enough qualifications to be counselor. They may not have enough time to be counselor. They may not have enough stamina to be counselor. They may not want to be, or they may think that it's not for them because it is a male dominated field. What's one piece of advice you want to instill upon the next generation of female leaders that you want them to know? And that's for every single one on this panel. So starting with you, Councillor Spearman.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So to me, being a public official is not about who has the best resume, especially in these mid-sized and smaller communities. It's not about who has the best resume in terms of, do you have a degree in social policy? Do you have a degree in, political science? It's not about that. It's about who is in your community and who is representing those people. So while we're having a conversation around gender parity, there's also a level of conversation that should be had at some point around our seniors being represented, our young adults being represented. Obviously, those under 18 can't vote, but how are folks being represented across the board? Not just around being a woman in politics. But that all being said, it's about who you are. It's about what you love, what you're passionate about. If it's, if you've got a few topics that really burn a fire in you, why not throw your name down? Because worst case, maybe you don't get elected, but it creates a platform for discussion. And one area I know in energy specifically, I've had some women come to me and say, well, what's going to happen about domestic violence in this community? Domestic violence is huge and we need someone talking about it. And yeah, absolutely, I can talk about it, but I'm one of 7 voices on council. And the more people that run that have certain topics that they want to get lit up or that they want to have a conversation around, if nothing else, a campaign creates a platform, not just for yourself to get elected, but to talk about those important issues in your community that maybe haven't been addressed or haven't been addressed effectively. So I say to people, you know what? Just do it. It doesn't hurt. In Airdrie, it costs $100 to run, unless you want to go hog wild and do the signs and do all the things. But if you're a person that's passionate about something, throw your hat in. Why not? And especially if you're a woman, like reach out to the people that you respect on council, get some advice. I think everybody in this conversation has been open in their own communities saying, come talk to me if you want to run, regardless of who you are. And most communities feel the same way. I haven't met an elected official who hasn't been open to talking to future hopefuls about running.
Councillor Blanchette.
Yeah, I echo a lot of Heather's sentiments there. I think that my advice is that if you're going to wait until you're 100% ready, you will never feel 100% ready. If anything, this role has taught me that you can grow further into your leadership role, no matter how much people thought I was ready in 2021. I never 100% felt ready. I sure didn't feel ready when I came in first in the election and I went, oh my gosh, what have I done? It was quite terrifying, to be honest with you. I've touched on, the imposter syndrome earlier, but you certainly can grow into your leadership role. And, if you're doubting your qualifications, I will tell you that your lived experience, whether you're a mom or you're a wife, a community member, a volunteer, those are as valuable, if not more valuable, than any formal title that you will ever hold. So if you simply care about your community, you're qualified, in my mind.
Mayor Potter, this is going to be the same question, but a little bit different. What what would you say to a female counselor or a female resident who's saying, I want to be mayor one day? What are the qualifications? What advice would you give a potential mayoral candidate who is female?
So it is being the mayor is a different role in some ways. There are a lot of things that are the same when it comes to representing your community, um, wanting to share well and look for the best solution, wanting to find great ideas, wanting to improve your community or grow the community. All of those things are the same. One of the differences in role is one around consensus building, helping the council be effective, being a and I say this really carefully, impartial advocate of community or of council's priorities. Now, I will fight to the end for the things that I believe in. When I'm around that table, let me tell you, like, if it's important to me, you will know it's important to me. But I always speak last. I let everybody else talk first. More important to me than even making sure that everybody knows where I'm coming from is making sure that everyone has had a voice. And so there are things about being the mayor that you have to be okay with letting go. And sometimes that means, okay, I know that if I say something at a particular point in a discussion around the table, that I can sway some of my counselors to follow what I think is the best idea. Is it the right decision as the mayor for me to do that? The answer is no. Even though I desperately want to see that happen, but I know I may still sway them if I talk at the end. And so the right decision will still come for the most part. I as the mayor, at the end of the day, I am a huge advocate and support for whatever council has decided this is the way. And people misunderstand sometimes. Of course, I have things that I stand for. Of course, I'm running on a platform when it comes to me as the mayor, what I think I bring to the table. But I have to balance those two things very carefully and make sure that there is respectful conversation and to enshrine that so that the best solution always comes. And that's not for everybody. If you want to be able to fight hard and just I want to say the respect thing is still an important part of every conversation. But if you don't want to have to carry those other things, then being a counselor is the better role. To be honest, like, not everybody wants to be in this position because sometimes it means biting my tongue when I think people are being real jerk faces, or I think
That's the most political thing I've heard on this show in a very long time. Jerk faces.
Yeah, I don't cuss. So, I get a lot of creative ideas from my children when it comes to calling names. No. But it's just, you have to be very patient. You have to love the people around the table and say, I want to make sure that the solution we come up with is the best and that every voice is heard and that not one counselor gets to drive the bus. We are all driving this bus. And it can be hard. And I know that being a counselor is hard too. So that's not to diminish the role of a counselor either, but it is different. And so for me, when I think of people who want to run, women who want to run, talk to people that you respect, not people who always say the things that you want to hear. Talk to the people you respect and you value their opinion and say, do you think I can do this? Where are my blind spots? We all have them. Where are my blind spots? Help me identify. I would love to do this. Is it the right time? When you know me. So when you think of all the things that I have in my life, does this fit? And can you see me doing well and succeeding well and loving it in 4 years when I'm still here? Because it's a big commitment to say, I'm here for 4 years. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. I realize stuff comes up, but I'm here for 4 years. So talk to those people and then choose your priorities and then go for it. Give it 100%. Doesn't matter at the end of the day if you lose or not. Like, I've never lost at anything in my life. I ran for provincial politics. I'm so thankful now that never happened, because I hate provincial politics so much with the parties and the but so I ran for nomination and I lost terribly. Like, it was awful. And I was like, I can never show my face again. This is the end of the world. But it taught me so much. And it has given me the ability to say, you know what? Once you've decided, go all in. Be committed and do awesome things. Like, you can do awesome things if you try. And I appreciate it. You know what my colleagues have said here. The platform that you get, the opportunity to engage with people, the opportunity to grow your community, none of those things happen if you don't step up and say, I'm willing to try. So just do it.
And on the plus side, you get to come on a show like this, and it's amazing to be on the Cross Border Network. But I'm just putting that out there. Councillor Schmidt Rempel, final word to you. Hopefully I pronounced I'm 90% sure I've switched your name but 4 times during this entire roundtable discussion, and I apologize if I have. But final word to you. What advice would you give women thinking about running in this upcoming municipal election?
Step up and do it. I mean, you've heard from all of us that at some point in time, we wondered whether we should, we wondered whether we could, and we did it. You know, it's one foot in front of the other. You've got this. Just get out there and take on the challenge, right? We need you to. So
Now,
please.
I'm going to have that
Get out
song
and run.
stuck in my head the entire night now. 1 foot in front of the door, and soon you'll be walking out that door. Councillors, mayors, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sitting down over the last hour and talking about this important discussion. This is an important election that is coming up. The links to the Ask Her and the Parity YEG will be in the show notes below. If you want to reach out to your fellow councillors and mayor who is on this table, I would assume, and I know you should never assume, but I'm going to assume they would be happy to have a conversation with you, whether you are in their community or someone outside of their community, because it may be daunting to ask people inside your community. So if you want a fresh, honest conversation, reach out to them before you file your nominations. And my last and final thing, and this is the big thing before I let you go, get out and vote, everyone. This is an important election.
Yes.
Municipal elections are the worst apathetic vote in all of the government systems that we have. So get involved this election. Go campaign, go knock on doors for your fellow candidates, and just learn about all the candidates who are running, male, female, all of them, because it is an important time, and the next 4 years are going to be very challenging for the province of Alberta municipally. And if we do not have the right people at the table, we are going to be pooched, and that is the last thing we need to be done in this province. So from the bottom of my heart, all 4 of you, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and good luck on your own campaigns as we head into this election period. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's roundtable discussion and gained some valuable insights into the world of municipal politics. To be sure to keep up on all the latest episodes of Municipal Affairs, Alberta Municipal Votes 2025, and cross-border interviews, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platforms or by visiting us on YouTube at Cross Border Network. Now, your support means the world to us, so share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Till next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly.